After all this time, the draft is finally complete. We went through all the rounds, we got through all the teams, and now it's time to recap and look at everything. Every single team, every single big offensive move for fantasy football. It's all going to happen right here, right now. We're going to separate this into two videos. We're planning on doing winners and losers of both the AFC and the NFC, which means we're going to start right away with the AFC. We'll start with the AFC East. And I think the biggest team that we should talk about here is actually the New York Jets. Man, poor Kenyon. That's my... of all the places he could have gone, there were so many fun options. Like, we've seen it. He's a physical specimen freak. A 4.39 40-yard dash.
Yeah.
This guy could have been great on the Chiefs. He could have gone to the Ravens. He could have gone to the even like the Dolphins or the Panthers. There were a lot of fun teams that I would have been fully on board with. But he's stuck on a team that not only is it Geno Smith, not only is it not a great offensive team or defensive team or just a great team in general in any sense of the word right now, he's not even the top target there. It's Garrett Wilson.
They drafted Mason Taylor with, I believe it was a second round tight end last year. Second or third round tight end.
No, it was a second. He was the second.
Yeah. He was like the third, fourth best, tight end in the draft last year out of some pretty good tight ends. So I thought it was surprising that, I was hearing all this stuff on Mason Taylor, like, oh, he's going to be, one of their best receivers in 2026, going into sophomore season. And now he's taking a step back, right? Because they got the best tight end in the rookie draft. And Kenyon Saddiq. So, that just took me off guard.
It was not a move I expected.
Yeah.
It was. I think what came out of it was you didn't expect them to just go so heavy on offensive weapons this year.
Right.
They weren't set up to take a quarterback. They had so many needs on the defense. I thought that was going to be more of the focus. I knew they were going to get like one guy. Like a lot of people assumed they were going to get a second receiver. They already shipped like guys like Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson if they managed to fall that far. But we didn't really get any of that. They ended up with best player available. And who knows? Maybe this is the way they see their team building moving forward. They just said, you know what? Forget the defense. The defense is not going to be good this year no matter how hard we try. Let's try to bolster up our offensive units, get as many talented, skilled position players as we can out there. And then next year, we draft a quarterback, and that quarterback is then set up with all these amazing offensive pieces.
Right.
That's probably what they might be thinking.
I think so.
Like, and if you do it from that perspective, it's not that bad. It's not that bad.
Yeah, and I think everyone thinks Geno Smith is washed at this point. And he could be, but at least they're giving him a chance with these weapons. So I think that's kind of interesting, and we'll see how he does. But at least they're not leading him to fail like previous quarterbacks because they haven't had much talent on the offense outside of the main guys. Now they have a little bit more depth, and I'm really interested in seeing how both Kenyon Saddiq and Amari Cooper Jr. do.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper's an interesting guy.
He's a very good slot receiver.
Yes.
Like I can see where the rise came with him, especially coming off of, the incredible Fernando Mendoza season. The way I look at how he could be in this season, in this offense, I thought about it a little bit. I think his production is going to be pretty similar to Trey Tucker of last season. Trey Tucker is also a slot receiver. He also had Geno Smith as his quarterback. He also had a very talented tight end and was the not the number one target on his own offense. I think you'll have a guy that will get a few catches a game, maybe somewhere between 7 to 10 fantasy points a game, but he won't be super impressive. Maybe like top 40-ish, but we'll have to see as the season gets later if he like really starts to make big strides.
From a dynasty perspective, first round dynasty picks, I'd say.
Yeah. But probably late first round.
Yeah. Late first round.
Yeah.
I'd say Kenyon maybe middle. Just because there's a lot of wide receivers on different teams. So that's just what I think. But
maybe. But I think Tyler Warren fell to like picks not like 109, 110.
That's usually how it goes.
I think he could have been, if it's a great landing spot, it could have been like he could have been getting better, closer to top 5 territory. But I think this landing spot moved things back. But we can move on to some of these other teams here. This is only the first team. But some other teams are not as interesting, like the Bills. There's not too much to talk about there. They mostly focused on defensive players. The only wide receiver they took was in the 4th round by the name of Skylar Bell. Then we have the Patriots, who also didn't do as much. They focused more on their offensive line, which is the thing you do when you are a loser at the Super Bowl. You focus on the one thing that made you lose the Super Bowl, which was, for them, the offensive line. So they're going to get more offensive linemen.
Yes.
The only other thing that I remember noting, just because I thought it was funny, was that they drafted a running back in the 7th round by the name of Jam Miller. Jam Miller. What a great name.
7th round, number 245.
Number 245. The last part of the AFC East we need to talk about is the Miami Dolphins, who... this whole draft, I was like, draft a receiver. They did the opposite of the Jets. They were just like, come on, man. And they didn't. They went for offensive line. They went for the whole 2nd round. Nothing. They finally went to the 3rd round, and they drafted not 1, but 2 wide receivers in the 3rd round. So I wanted to take a look at both of these guys, because realistically, these guys could be number 1s. By the end of the season. We have no idea because it's Malik Washington, it's Tutu Atwell. So I wanted to take a look at them. It's Caleb Davis out of Texas Tech, and then Chris Bell out of Louisville. I think Chris Bell can be very, very good. He's a big body guy. He had good speed. Like, he's very physical out there. He's a very physical wide receiver, and he beats people up, but he keeps running forward. And he's fast, and it's like, oh my gosh, this guy... actually, maybe they got a steal here. This guy looks really good. The one caveat is that he tore his ACL late in the last season.
Yeah.
So he's coming off an injury. So he might not be 100% going into this season. He might not be 100% for most of the season. And Caleb Douglas, it was kind of weird. I was kind of looking through his highlights. And I'm like, nothing's jumping out to me. Where is this guy? I thought, was this guy projected to go lower than the 3rd round? And yeah, he kind of was to some people. It was like they saw him as a 5th or 6th round player that they drafted in the 3rd round. And I'm like, he kind of looks like a not as an insult, but like he doesn't stand out in any real way to me.
Yeah, I agree. And especially compared to Chris Bell, I think, obviously it seems like they took a chance on him. Maybe they thought other teams were looking at him. I'm sure there's a reason why they picked him up. But you're right. I do think that Chris Bell has more of a chance to actually break out on the team just because there's really no one like on this team to compete with. The most experienced guy is Jalen Tolbert, and I know Tutu Atwell is pretty experienced too, but I think Jalen's probably the best, on the team, and that's just kind of crazy to say. So
it sucks. It sucks for Malik Willis.
Yeah.
How could
it makes me think?
How could you bring in a guy like that and you give him nothing to work with? And it's
Well,
Even
see, it makes me think they're probably going to make a move to secure another wide receiver because they're
maybe
pretty bare bones.
I
Like
know
anytime,
you've thrown out this idea to me that like maybe they could be a team that tries to get AJ Brown, but as of right now, there's no reports that says that's going to happen.
yeah,
It still
I,
says like the Patriots, if anything, are still the
mhm,
team that they said talks are opening up again. They're
right.
still the most likely team to nab them. By the way, Patriots, the winners on that team, the winner on that team was Romeo Dobbs, and the loser on that team is Romeo Dobbs because they're still thinking of getting AJ Brown.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, but
But that's
definitely
just
watch out for these wide receivers, Chris Bell and Caleb Douglas. Could be
but
interesting.
more at least for me, I'm really into Chris Bell as a player. I think
Yeah.
he's one that people should watch out for, especially if we're going to talk a lot about dynasty in this. I think he should be a dynasty guy that people look out for. Like genuinely, I think he's much better than I think that injury, that late season
Yeah.
ACL tear, definitely hurt his stock. I think he would have been a second rounder at least.
Yeah. I agree.
All right. How about we move on to the AFC North then? We go through the AFC North. Let's look at the Pittsburgh Steelers here.
Mm.
Not too many huge moves. They're probably their most famous move is what they didn't do, which is not get Makai Lemon.
Mm.
As they were planning on getting Makai Lemon, I think everybody's heard the story now. They were on the phone with him, but the Eagles traded up and they couldn't get a hold of him because the Steelers were already talking to him, and then he becomes an Eagle. Sad, unfortunate. In the second round, they got another receiver, Jeremy Bernard. And Jeremy Bernard is a very solid receiver. He's a bit more versatile than the guys they currently have, like DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman. I've seen them run him in like wide receiver sweeps and like do little trick plays. Very solid, smooth, like route runner. He's played very tough. He's like he has a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for another receiver to just like fill out the core and have a good trio, then yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think it is a little bit more of a crowded wide receiver room with DK and now Michael Pittman on the team. So I do think he's slotted at more of a wide receiver 3 spot. And um you never know what could happen with him. I think the Steelers are interesting because they always get guys kind of like this. I feel like Roman Wilson is someone that's still on the team that they drafted, with a third round, second or third round pick.
I think they've given up on that.
And yeah, I
Once you're
think
starting to look for a third rounder, it's like you're giving up. You're setting ship.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, and he kind of seems like he fits a similar role. So I think Jeremy's maybe taking, going to take his place as that slot guy. I'm not really sure,
Hey man,
but
they still have an unbelievable track record at developing great receivers. So who knows? Maybe
oh, yeah,
Jeremy Bernard is
that's
next in the
true.
cycle.
Yeah, you never know. I
You never
mean,
know.
definitely think he's a a late round guy to get. Like, he was drafted before um Chris Bell, but I think given the team that he's on and then the position that he's slotted to be, there, I think I I don't even know. He might go undrafted. Might be someone on the waiver wire for a long time in
Maybe.
regular
Uh,
leagues.
Jeremy Bernard, he'll be undrafted in regular leagues. In Dynasty, he's probably like a second round.
Late second round,
Late
I'd
second
say.
round, yeah. Late
Yeah.
second, maybe even going into third if depending on
Yeah.
who gets excitement early or
Yeah.
late. The only other
True.
move they made was getting a QB with Drew Aller. Don't know too much about him other than he's got a really good arm, really
Hmm.
strong arm, and he
Really.
likes throwing it deep, which on paper is good for DK Metcalf. And I assume the only reason they got him is break glass in case of emergency because Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers is still not committed to coming back yet. He probably will in July because he sucks. And I hate it when he does this. It's really annoying. And I'm kind of over it.
No, for real. Well, that would be interesting because then I know they've been kind of ramping up with Will Howard and Mason Rudolph. Um, I'm a fan of Will Howard, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's kind of interested in seeing how that goes, but definitely will find out. And I will say, with all these wide receivers that we're talking about, there's a lot of like later round wide receivers
A lot
and
of
running
them.
backs. I think it's interesting to like we just got to see what happens in camp, guys. We got to see what happens
Yeah.
in camp, OTAs. You never know. Like there could be a lot of buzz around these guys, and so you want to watch for that before you draft these guys because um, that's just like a good telltale sign that something could happen in the season. Might not, but you know, definitely good to keep up with.
Baltimore. When they drafted, they haven't done too much, but when they get into the late rounds, they did something that kind of intrigued me, which is they drafted 2 receivers right out of the bat in rounds 3 and 4. Jacoby Lane, human highlight reel. Dude,
Dude,
I
I like Jacoby.
here's the thing
He's
though. Here's the
pretty
thing.
sick.
I like Jacoby too. I think everybody's gonna look at the highlights and just be like, that
Yeah.
guy looks like a stud. I'm gonna be honest, man. I think he's a bit of a red herring.
Ooh.
I think he's a big play home run kind of guy. The guy taken after him, Elijah Sarrett, was also on the Hoosiers with Fernando Mendoza. He had 15 touchdowns on the Hoosiers, and he's a little safer. He's kind of interesting. He's like a big body receiver, and he makes contested catches, but in like short range areas.
Mm.
Like almost feels like a tight end in how he was used on the Hoosiers. It was always like, oh, he makes these great catches for 12 yards. It was really interesting.
That
But
is interesting.
I find it fascinating. They drafted 2 receivers completely different to each other.
Mm.
They both seem to play a specific role. I think Jacoby Lane, we've seen this before with the Ravens offense where they've brought in guys and most of what their use is 40-yard touchdowns. How quickly can we get into the end zone in 7 seconds? Rashad Bateman, last year they had DeAndre
Yeah.
Hopkins and Devontae Walker, both guys who also just did that a lot as like the only catches they made throughout the year. So Jacoby Lane, he could really develop into something special. They could also just see him as like an Isaac Tesla, which is a super uber talented guy that they put on the field 3 times a game. And then we have the
Yeah.
Browns.
Yep.
The Browns are more fun. The Browns are actually
Ooh, the
really fun.
Browns. Dude, the
So
Browns.
yeah,
Bro,
they
go ahead. Where do you want me to go?
sorry. They got an offensive tackle in the first 10 picks. Good for Shador. This whole big winner is Shador here because they drafted 2 receivers, but not just like, not scrubs.
Not
Nothing to
scrubs.
the rest of these guys, but this is 2
Couple
of
of the
like
top tier
kind of like
ones.
near the top 5  area of wide receivers.
Yeah.
Casey Concepcion, or
Ooh.
his real name, Kevin, and, and Denzel Boston. Both are
Dude.
very exciting.
Yeah.
Casey is, uh, watch him get yak, super fast. Try to set him up with open space, and then he'll take off running. Denzel Boston,
He's a first rounder.
he's a
by the
first
way.
rounder, and Denzel Boston fell to the second round. I think he could have been a first rounder. I like
Oh, yeah.
Denzel Boston a lot.
I do too.
I really do. If anything, if I had to choose between the two, I think even though Concepcion, if that's his real name, it's Kevin. Uh, if
Yeah.
if I had to choose between the two, even though he was drafted higher, I think Boston has a better shot to be like a genuine top end receiver.
Well, that's the yeah. I think you're right. Um, Denzel's 6'4". Okay,
Yeah.
so he would be that. He is a yak guy, and he is a kind of what is it, contestant catch guy, an X that X spot. That's all Denzel. He actually reminds me a lot of Cedric Tillman, who's on this team as well. And I think he'll probably, take over for Cedric. It's pretty high pick, so I don't know. I really like Cedric,
Yeah.
but I
Well,
just think they're pretty similar players.
I
Um,
think so too, but
yeah,
you have to remember, even with similar players, it's a new coaching staff.
yeah,
It at this point, what was there, especially with guys that are filling out the depth charts, doesn't really matter if they just don't really care about you that much.
yeah.
If they want their own guys, it's unfortunate for Cedric, but he just hadn't, through injuries and through enough stuff, he hadn't done
Oh
enough.
yeah,
I think this is
injuries for
more
sure.
I think this is more damning on Jerry Judy than anything of
Oh
how
yeah,
of how bad he looked last season. Basically showing that, not that the season before was like a total fluke, but I still think a lot of his production was built up on, Jameis Winston memes. But I don't know. I think maybe KC could be more better in the moment, like short term. I think he'll show up more, he'll make bigger plays, and he'll look bigger. And people will get excited for him. But man, Denzel, I really like Denzel, and I want to take a shot at him when I get into drafts.
yeah. That's what I'm thinking too, especially for rookie drafts. Like, and that's what's so fun about this team is you have the option. KC's probably going to go in the first round because he has that draft capital. He was a first rounder in the draft, so um, I'm guessing late first round, and then Denzel could make his way in a rookie draft to like
Early second.
start early second, maybe mid second, and that could be fun. I'm thinking I can get him in the mid second, you know, and yeah, he could easily like it's up in the air with these guys, man. You
Yeah.
you don't really know who it could go to. They're so close together in draft capital. So yeah, it's
I
kind of
think
a
it
fun
I think
kind of
it
a fun
adds a
thing.
lot because it's another team similar to the Jets where it's like you before the season, before the draft, it's like, ugh, I hope nobody ends up here. And now after
Yeah.
the end of it, because they focus so hard on getting these productive skill position players, now
Mm.
you look at the full picture of the offense, it's actually kind of interesting. It's kind of like exciting, maybe a very strong word, but there's Harold Fannin Jr. still there,
Yeah.
and Shador is at least great for the memes. You know, like
Yeah,
there,
no, it's a cool team. I think it's shaping up to be a cool team for sure.
yeah, we can go,
Defensively, all around.
yeah.
If Shador could do something, but yeah,
We have the AFC South now. This one will probably be a much quicker skim over because a chunk of these teams didn't do much. The Texans only got a tight end in the second round. He's just a blocking tight end, so it doesn't really matter. Uh, the Colts didn't get really much of anything that I could get. They fourth round interior offensive lineman, not really anything. Biggest winner there is probably Alec Pierce because then that tells me, yeah, the contract is legit, and that they probably do want to give him a bigger role, and that they didn't try to, get more receivers in the draft to just make everything the same.
yeah, I think Alec Pierce is a winner, but I also think we can't be sleeping on Josh Downs. And
Yeah,
honestly,
yeah.
I think they both have the roles, and if I had to choose between Alec and Josh, I'm choosing Josh to be honest
Mm,
because I think Alec is that long bomb guy, and that could be good for fantasy if he's consistent. But Josh, I think, will be their slot and kind of every down um, type of receiver. Because there's no one there's no one else, bro. They got rid of Michael Pittman, so it really is these two guys, and it should be interesting to see
and Tyler Warren.
how they do. And Tyler Warren is probably, let's be honest, he's probably going to be the number one. receiver, but
He'll do good stuff there.
oh yeah, he'll be great.
Nothing with the Jaguars other than the fact that they took a tight end in the second round, and that made me, as a Brendan Strange fan,
Mm,
made my heart skip a beat a little bit. So I had to look into
mm.
this guy, and it's okay, guys. He's mostly a blocker. He did catch passes in college, but last season only had 19 receptions. So I'm not worried. I'm not worried anymore. Uh, Nothing really to say there. And
Yeah,
then the Titans. The big bad Titans. They did not end up with Jeremiah Love, but they were like, okay, if we couldn't get Love, let's get another big offensive option. Let's go for Carnell Tate. Let's go for the best, highest receiver in the draft. Let's draft him
dude.
at the number 4 pick, which is way more than I ever thought Carnell Tate was ever gonna go.
Yeah.
To a point where I'm
Okay.
like, I'll be brutally honest with my thoughts on Carnell Tate. I don't know if he's a true dominant number 1 receiver.
Dang.
There's that whole argument of, well, can you be one if you weren't one in college? I mean,
Mm,
obviously he had Jeremiah Smith next to him, and everybody's like, Jeremiah Smith is the best receiver in college football right now.
yeah. And he's
But
on the best college, receiving team, debatably,
yeah,
ever.
but I saw him a lot as like deep ball guy, caught a lot of late, you know, a lot of deep passes, a lot of poppers that you just like, pop in the air. I think he could be really good. I think he could be top 20 wide receiver this season, but
Yeah.
I'm just not sure as to like where else, how much further he can go.
Dude, and I think that this points to honestly how weak this this draft class is, dude.
I
Honestly,
know
like outside of Jordan Love,
some
not
people
Jordan
really
Love.
like this wide receiver class.
Uh,
I feel like I'm in a minority by saying I don't love I don't
Jeremiah.
there's not a single wide receiver this year that I'm like in love with.
Oh yeah, totally. I definitely think that because he was on Ohio State, you know, he got drafted this high because Ohio State wide receivers in the NFL are crazy good, and that's just how it
Yeah.
is. So honestly, he probably is crazy good. He was probably one of the best coming out of high school, and that's how he got on Ohio State. But yeah, you're right. Like it is tough when you don't see that much when he's not the dominant guy on the team. I still think he'll be good, and I think he's on probably one of the best teams that a wide receiver could get on. You know, in this draft, because Tennessee needs receivers, dude,
They
and they're
need
gonna use
receivers.
who they get. And he
Wando
probably
Rob
will.
Yeah.
Cal, he
Sorry,
probably will be
sorry.
the number one. No, you're good. But yeah, you're right. Wando Robinson's there.
He's there,
Um,
but he like fills a different role.
for
And
sure.
Calvin Ridley's not that guy. You're not
He's
that
not that
guy.
guy.
You're not that
He's
guy.
old. He's probably going to be done soon. And then there's like the other two guys who were rookies last year, but they were kind of just there, because they didn't have anyone else. Like I think Alec Amenwar is good. Uh, s- what is his name? Chike
Oh,
Deek
no, it's
or
like
something.
it's Jimmy Dyke. I'm just
Jameer
gonna
DK.
DK?
Jameer Dyke or something. Yeah, something
Yeah,
like that.
Jimmy, something around there. But no,
They're
but you're right.
okay.
They can develop into something fun, but maybe not like,
Yeah.
big time receiving talents. But yeah, that's what I think is with Carnell Tate. I think he'll have a good season. I just don't know how good. He's still probably the second pick in the draft.
That's the
Maybe the
thing. Yeah, you definitely
yeah,
want to still
second.
draft him early because there's a lot of potential that he has.
Yeah.
Um, you know, but yeah, I would say probably second in a dynasty draft behind Jeremiah Love. I would pick Carnell Tate personally.
But let me just say this before we move on. They did draft a running back in the 5th round by the name of Nick Singleton or Nicholas Singleton. And I found this very interesting because a couple of months
Mm-mm.
back, I used to look at some of the prospects by like the top 5 per position stuff that the NFL.com and ESPN does. And most of the running backs are positioned exactly the same. It's like the same 4 or 5 guys. And then one guy had Nicholas Singleton at number 2 of like all the running backs. I'm like, huh, okay. Let me pinpoint that. I'll come back to that to see where he gets drafted, and I'll look at it. Because that's interesting if one guy thinks, yeah, this guy is that good. I think Singleton's really good. I think Nick, I look at him and it's like this guy, he's got speed, size, explosiveness. What were my
Mm.
exact notes? I didn't put him on here. I did a whole sleepers video where I talked about him.
Mm.
He was like a 5-star recruit coming out of college, coming out of high school. Uh,
Ooh.
he played at Penn State, and he was just all the highlights. I'm like, this guy's fast. This guy, he returns kicks. He catches passes. He looked very good in just all areas of a running back. And I'm like, how come this guy wasn't drafted higher than this? 5th round? It felt like he kind of fell a little bit.
Yeah, what happened?
I don't know. I don't know exactly what happened. But I'm
Ah,
just trying to use this as a platform to say I really like this guy. Um, Maybe not like immediate, but especially for dynasty long term. Tony Pollard's got 1 year left on his deal. Tajay Spears, we don't really know what's going to happen with Tajay Spears. There can be a
yeah.
chance. We've seen running backs are the one of the few exceptions where day 3 picks, a running back can turn to something great. 4th round, 5th round, 6th round, we see it all the time. Don't be surprised if a guy like Nicholas Singleton could be that guy.
I agree. I agree. I think, you know, from everything that I've heard about Nicholas is that he's kind of like a raw talent guy. Like he has the talent. He just
Needs to
um
develop.
he's rough around the edges in some areas. Yeah, like he's not a good pass blocker. Um
Yeah.
and stuff like that, which I feel like is, you're able to kind of work around. And, he's on a team that needs a running back. So you're right. He could definitely come up in the ranks. And he's a bigger guy than Tajay Spears. So who knows what could happen? Definitely a deep sleeper to keep your eye on. I'd say I would star him in, whatever league you're in,
Yeah.
especially Dynasty. But yeah, I like that take on him. I think he could be interesting.
Let's finish off the section of the AFC with the AFC West. We'll go right into the Chiefs here. Chiefs didn't do anything except they did one thing. Unfortunate for Emmett Johnson, you're going to the Chiefs right after they just signed Kenneth Walker to a
Mhm.
big fat contract. I liked Emmett Johnson. I wanted to see him in a better spot. The
Yeah, I
most I
like
could
him too.
see, the most I could see is that they just they're like, you're our new Kareem Hunt now. You know,
Yeah,
which is a
honestly.
little unfortunate, but yeah, this was already going to be tough. Coming off of last year where so many starting running backs were drafted, there wasn't a lot of options. A lot of these
Mhm.
guys were going to be stuck in backup roles, and unfortunately, Emmett got stuck in that position.
Yeah, but honestly, it's not the worst place because we know, from experience being Seahawks fans, that Kenneth Walker has time where he gets injured, usually, you know, um, each season for a little
Yeah,
bit, potentially. And that's just kind of how it is. He's kind of like that. So Emmett could step up and be a decent handcuff in that regard. I feel like Kenneth always comes back from whatever little injury. It's usually like a groin injury or something he struggles with for a little bit. But yeah, I think Emmett really fell, man. Like, I mean, a lot of these running backs really fell who were supposed to be some of the better guys. But for Emmett to drop to the 5th round at pick 161 is kind of crazy to me.
dude. Yeah,
So he was a decent prospect. But again, that shows you how weak probably this draft class is.
Or what the teams actually thought of certain prospects.
True.
I mean,
Yeah.
most of them were projected to be, you know, third round to fourth round guys. Like
Yeah.
this wasn't a huge shock. It was just a little shocking to me that I thought he was like the third best running back in this draft. Maybe even, no, not second. Definitely the third best running back in this draft. But
Yeah.
they didn't see him that way. He was like the seventh running back taken off the board.
I know. Pretty crazy.
So sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles. But the last couple teams we're going to talk about also have those same running backs that we can talk about. Chargers didn't really do much of anything of massive note. They took a day 3 receiver, but they already have a bunch of receivers, so I don't take that into account much. We can go over the Raiders and the Broncos because the Raiders drafted Mike Washington, the speed demon.
Oh yeah, that's
to
interesting.
try to complement Ashton Genty, and then the Broncos took Jonah Coleman, the big bowling ball power back, who's now going to be stuck in there with J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey. On Mike Washington, I'm not worried for Ashton Genty. I don't think this is going to be a pure like committee. I think this is when Ashton Genty gets tired. Here comes the speed guy.
Yeah. What I mean, it is kind of interesting, right? He was the fourth running back taken off the board. I think the guy before him was like, and we'll talk about him, a black.
The Niners backup.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. But no, I think it's interesting because on the Raiders, right, they got Clint Kubiak now as their offensive coordinator. And, he was on the Seahawks and he, helped Kenneth Walker and kind of put together Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet and have them, he coordinated them to be that two-back system that, went to the Super Bowl and they won. So I heard that, he's coming in and kind of wanted to get Mike Washington to make it a little bit more of a committee. I don't know how, obviously, you can't compare Mike Washington to Ashton Genty.
Yeah.
But, I mean, new offensive coordinator, man, you don't know. This guy's pretty good, and it could be an interesting move, especially because I think he is a little bit faster than Genty.
No, he is faster. He'll be one of the faster running backs in all of the NFL.
Yeah.
It's just more of, for one, I don't think he's going to come in day one and be like, okay, you're immediately big part of this offense, Mike Washington. He's still a day 3 guy. He still has to earn it. And if he does get that role, it comes in throughout the season where we have to see him play. If he's coming in and every time he touches the ball, it's like big play production, then Genty should start to get worried. Then fantasy owners should start to get worried because then there's going to be more of a reason to create that committee. For now, I think it should be okay because he could have gone worse. It could have been a higher draft pick. It could have been like, if Jadarian Price fell to the second round, he could have gone for Jadarian Price, and that would have really sent people spinning.
Yeah.
But I think for now, it's going to be okay. Notice how we didn't even talk about Fernando Mendoza because there's not really a lot to be said at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious. He's the number one.
Yeah. The only unfortunate thing about him is that they didn't draft any receivers for him.
Right.
There are no... Trey Tucker.
Super weird.
Good luck, Fernando.
That's actually crazy. But it's good for a couple people. I mean, it's good for Jack Betch.
Hey, you know what? The Seahawks didn't need an amazing group of highly paid, highly talented wide receivers. We just had one. But, I mean, if you're focused on a play-action heavy offense with heavy focus on the ground game, maybe you don't need... Maybe he's like, that's not necessary yet. that's something we can get over time. And Stephon Diggs is still there. I still think they can get Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, I agree. They're gonna definitely probably get a 1 by the
Yeah.
start of the season. Let's be honest.
And the only thing to say about Jonah Coleman with the Broncos is that I think it works out like this. Jonah Coleman, well, actually, let me say this. Sean Payton wanted to upgrade the running back position. He said this openly in interviews, in press conferences. He wants to upgrade the position. Definitely did not feel like it was strong enough last season. So that's why he drafted Jonah Coleman. I think RJ Harvey, his current role is more of a the third down back. I think that's secure because I don't think that's what Jonah Coleman plays. I think Jonah Coleman is actually going to be competing straight with J.K. Dobbins to try to earn some playing time against him for the first and second down role. So it's a whole cluster of guys that are all going to have some sort of role in this run game. Jonah Coleman's going to really have to earn it, but we'll see.
We'll see.
But that about covers the AFC here. That will do the end for this video. We're also going to do a video on the NFC, which will be coming out very shortly after the first video. So thank you to everyone that watched this one, and make sure to check out our NFC video when it does release officially very soon after the first one.
Yes.
But thank you so much.
You guys.
In a complex fantasy world, just remember to stay simple. Good night, everyone. God bless.